promising bunch of people. And I already did a little bit of count on the designers, technologists, and business people here. But that's pretty nice to see a kind of a decent mix. I'm just going to jump right into it. We have about 2 hours, I think, and I have a lot of material. So the second part is more working with one of the tools that I've developed, and the first part is more the fundamentals and the basics, the theories. So the second, the second is more flexible. We'll see how far we go into all the stuff in the first part, right? So about me, my background is in product design, UX, service design, essentially all kinds of design-related activities in digital products. And I've worked at companies like Deloitte in India and at Fjord in Helsinki. And when I was at Fjord in 2012 or so, I realized that I came upon a word called behavior design. Or was it 2011? And I said, this is the future. This is my future. This is what I want to be doing. And I'd studied psychology before. I'd studied interaction design. Psychology I studied for fun many years ago in India, and I made the connection immediately that obviously applying behavioral science into digital and products is going to be a huge thing. So I essentially started a consultancy or a practice of my own called Fabric, which is what I do now. I pretty much do that full time. We are a behavior design agency. We do research. We do all kinds of stuff. And that's what brought me here, really. So we're going to do this in 2 parts. The first part, really, I wanted to touch upon a little bit on design thinking, because everyone knows about it, but I just want to kind of, set the table about why it's so powerful. And then today we will go into what is behavior design. We will look at how behavior works. We just look at a few models, a few concepts. And then we'll look at this tool that I've told you about called the Behavior Design Canvas. So I created a canvas. And in part 2, we will play with a case using the Behavior Design Canvas tool. And we can go into other things like gamification or nudging, etc. in part 2, depending on the time. But I very much doubt we will have the time. But we'll see what we can do. Yeah. Whoops. Yeah, definitely, I think the design thinking approach is at the center of everything that we're doing today and the next time, and I think you should be following that in life in general. I'm a huge proponent of that. Google adopts it. You must have seen this. It's one of their design thinking sprint methods. Phases: understand, sketch, decide, prototype, validate. It looks linear. But really it's not. I mean, a linear process and design thinking have not really that much to do with each other. Even though, of course, it's good to have a process. This is from IDEO. I think I'm much more, if you look at it, it's a similar idea, but really, all you're really doing when you think as a designer, using design thinking, is to open up your choices and to close your choices. And open up your choices and close your choices. Are you prototyping? Are you validating? Are you researching? Are you framing? Are you evaluating? You don't actually know in practice. You don't really know. Professionals will tell you that on the job, they have no idea. Insight can come 1 minute, you could be prototyping something, the next, third minute you could be validating that with user research, or you could start with research, or you could start with an existing technology. It's an attitude, it's a spirit that's more important than a process, right? This is something called the squiggle. I don't know if many designers have seen this, but made by, I forget the guy's name, but it's an iconic piece of, can everybody see? Okay, great. It's an iconic piece because that's much more what the design process looks like. It's just messy in the beginning, and it gets a little bit more sensible later on. If you think of this as research, concept, and design, that's okay, but you can, But I just wanted to capture the spirit of design thinking in a few points, what I have found after 20 years of working in this space. these are the keys for me, and I think it's a good kind of spirit to have during this workshop. You know or you don't know, really. Most of the things you don't know. It's fine not to know. We'll talk a little bit about biases. When you say I don't know, you create a culture of saying that, which is good. Then you can find out together. Curiosity is key. Moving into a zone of discomfort is almost the norm. If you're comfortable, you're probably not going anywhere. Fail forward, we used to say this at Fjord, and it's a fantastic way of saying, moving forward is the point. Failing is part of the process. Fail, but fail forward, right? Cross-pollinate. Mix stuff up. Don't be disciplinary. Don't be stuck in biology, physics, statistics, psychology, wherever you come from. Simply mix stuff and you'll always find new, alchemy. Be inclusive. Always include. Especially now, you guys are global teams designing for global solutions, for global markets. Solutions for global markets. And you want to be inclusive. You want to think across gender, across all kinds of preferences, demographics, and so on. Sketch and prototype. Sense making by doing. You don't understand anything by absorbing knowledge. You understand by making stuff. You don't know what you're going to make. That's why you're making. It's very different from knowing and making. I've written an essay on this at some point, but that's the key to good design education, is that they teach you how to learn with your hands. It could be sketching, it could be coding, whatever your tool is. It could be a hammer and a nail, whatever you use. So it's basically action-driven. Action is not an outcome. It's not an end product. You don't think and then act. You act, and through that you learn. Okay? So that's kind of like the general zeitgeist of design thinking. So I would expect this workshop to be very interactive between yourselves and with me. And uncertainty is great, ambiguity is great. If you don't know what you're trying to say it anyway. Because by saying it, you will get further. Yeah? That's kind of something I would really like to have. So lots of questions. Anytime, just stop me. There's no protocol there. Hey. Hey, dude, how good to see you. Yeah. We met at the product time.
Yeah.
Hey, so yeah, what is behavior design? I'll just put it straight on the table. It's a lot of things, but I like to define it, or for the purposes of fabrics practice, we think of it as tools to extend or change human behavior through digital technology. We are especially interested in the change of human behavior through digital technology. You can do it through paper, you can do it. You see now, we had people sitting facing me. You rearranged how people sit and they start talking to each other. The volume level went up. That was a behavior change, right? But it didn't need a digital device. It didn't need digital technology. So I don't usually work with non-digital methods. I'm working with digital methods, and the whole course content, these two classes will be about digital intervention for behavior change. And then if you start reading about this subject, a lot of my friends ask me, or clients or other people ask me, Ashwin, give me the best books. There really isn't. It's like you have to just read everything you can and you make up your own mind. People ask me, is it about motivation and abilities? Yes. Is it about cognitive biases? Yes, it is. Is it about things like gamification? Yep. Is it about nudging? Sure. The influence and persuasion, we've been doing it a long time, yes. Memory and experience, habits and routines. These are the 10 areas, rewards and incentives. These are the 10 areas that I have been at least focusing on since in the last 5 years or so as the key kind of, good say the IP, or kind of like the core of our content, subject matter, which I draw upon. So I go to PhDs who have done, I'm not a PhD myself, but I go to behavioral science PhDs who work in these areas and say, hey, tell me more about psychological triggers. Tell me more about motivation. And there are more areas like this. So what I want today is not for you, I don't aim to give you an exhaustive idea about it, and it's not about documenting it. So this is being live streamed, and you'll be able to see this forever, hopefully online. So you'll have this material. So don't worry about documenting, but today I want to give you the understanding of the core of what is behavior change and behavior design in a digital context, right? Any questions so far? Great. So I'll give you a few examples of what is behavior design. This is how I like to frame it. If you look at any successful behavior, if you look at any successful digital app, service, or product, or technology, you'll see that it fundamentally changes human behavior. And this is what I mean. Before you had Instagram or, photo-taking apps, you would shoot a picture, you would develop a picture, you would display the picture, you would store an image. But now you do something very different. You shoot an image, you edit it immediately on the fly, you share that image, and then you comment on it. You have a conversation around it, right? Same thing with cab hailing. What did we do before when we said we hail a cab or use a cab? We call, we walk. The cab, call the cab, and then you go down to it, or go on the street, ride it, pay, and then that's the end of the transaction. You probably never see that guy again, or maybe you do, depending on where you live. Now you use some kind of a mapping function. You pick the cab, you look at who drives, you pay already before the ride, and then you rate the driver and the ride afterwards. Very different set of behaviors. We still call it cab driving, but what you do as cab driving has radically changed because of this thing right here. I only have 2 examples. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I was adding so much stuff that I kind of messed it up. So this should basically be Tinder. Right? So it's dating, it's not cab driving. What happened before you, if you don't look at this, you just think this is Tinder or a dating app. Before you had these apps, you would go to an event or a party or whatever, you would meet somebody, you would chat them up and then ask them out for a date. And now you create a profile, you swipe, and then you match, and then you go on a date. It's not like these older forms of behaviors are not there anymore, but the behavioral space gets expanded through these apps and technology. The point I'm trying to make is that all of these things, what you do on devices is behavior. You do it every day. It's the action on digital technology. It's not what you think, it's not your memory, it's not your perception, it's not your emotion towards the brand. It's behavior. So if I ask you all, hey, did you have a good time? How was your experience from this class? If you all said it was a great experience, it would still mean very different things for each of you. So experience cannot be measured. But if I asked you, what was your behavior? Those are clear data points. You arrived here at a particular point, you stayed for so long, you left at a particular point, you wrote so many notes, you had so many conversations. Things you do are always measurable. The things you do on technology, snap, swipe, scroll, pause, like, tag, share, buy, and a whole bunch of other stuff, is behavior. It's action on digital. And you see it everywhere. Apps and services all the time trying to get you to do things. Simple so far? Makes sense? Really straightforward. Try nightclubs or comedy. This is from an app by Facebook on events. I forget what it's called, but that's a good example. You set up Netflix. It tells you to choose something, choose movies you like, so it can kickstart its recommendation engine. I'm giving you a lot of examples. So behavior is action on digital technology, which then lets you do the things you do in real life. It kind of fits into your daily life behavior. Things like choosing, planning, booking, rating, commenting. Right? Make sense? Experience cannot be measured, but behavior can. That was kind of, at least for me, it was the insight that I had. Those are my words, by the way. I'm pretty proud of them. Even though I've had people question me, like experience can be measured, and there's debates we've been having and stuff like that, but I'm more of the opinion that experience is a subjective thing. It's so deep inside you. It's a combination of your history, your memories, your emotions, your background. There's a lot when you say you had a good experience. How do you compare that with someone else? But you walked 10 steps, that is behavior. Right? You had 2 cups of coffee, that is behavior. So the approach of behavior design is simply to start with designing the behavior and not the technology. You start with figuring out what is the behavior you would want, and then how do we make it happen. Couple of examples. Foodora and Volt, competitors, right? Guys, if you don't understand anything, something at any point, just stop me, okay? Like examples or anything, because I'm just assuming that you understand if you don't say it, yeah? I just assume. Bringing good food into your everyday. Bringing good food into your everyday. Is there a behavior there on the part of the user or the consumer? Do you read anything there? Answers, anybody? Bringing good food into your everyday. That's what Foodora does. That's what they claim they do. Is there a behavior?
They had another slogan as well.
Sorry?
I think they had another slogan.
I'm going with this one for the moment. Yeah. They have a few. I did actually find a few, but I picked this one just for the example.
Behavior, probably not so much.
Yes, why is that?
Behavior is usually how you do things and not what exactly you do.
No, behavior is doing things, but here they're only talking about their behavior, not yours. Right? They're saying they bring good food into your everyday. Are they telling you what to do? Nothing. Right? On the other hand, hungry, Volt. That's a call to action. Are you hungry? Call us. He's not saying what we do. He's saying what you should do. That's a behavioral intervention. The first one is advertising or publicity or messaging or marketing, and the second is a behavioral intervention. Products and services that make you do things.
Do they maybe also try to convert the word vault into a verb? Like
I think they
Google
did.
stuff and
Exactly. It's one of the best pieces of behavior kind of intervention. I don't know if it carries into the app, but at a marketing level, it's because it's priming you to think you're hungry and vote. I'm hungry, I need vote. Right? And if you think about it, that bringing the best food into your life every day is a very long-term kind of a pitch. It's saying that for the next 6 months or every day of your life in the future, we will be bringing you good food. That's nice. But Hungry Volt is much more of a spontaneous call to action. It's a very different behavioral intervention. They're saying whenever you feel hungry and you're lazy and you haven't prepared or you're tired or you have to work, just call us. It's not this promise of we will be there in the future. It's not this relationship building kind of a thing. It's nudging you into action in the moment when you're hungry. And so behavior design works. In order for it to work, you need to think of context, you need to think of the moment. But I'll go into that a lot more. A couple of examples. This is an app. It's a chatbot. So really interesting. I've been trying it out. You should try it. It's free. Talk to someone who always listens. Talk to someone who always listens. Excellent app. The app isn't that good. Not yet, but really. It's been publicized a lot, but I was surprised that it's actually not that good. It's probably getting better. They are obviously smart people, but the idea is that it kind of connects with you and is there to listen to you, and it kind of builds a virtual replica of it, gets to know you over time. So I also have to give it time. I've not, maybe after 6 months with it. So it asked me things like I set it up and it said, hey, how are you doing? Or something like that. It said, how are you? And this is a chatbot. It's not voice, it's just chatting, text. Then I said something about my parents, and it said, do you mind if I ask you more about your parents? And I thought, wow, that's smart. It's emotional, it's getting me. And then I said something about, yeah, sure, go ahead. And then it sent me a tip and said, hey, rate me on the App Store or something. It totally broke that connection. So it had me and it lost me. And I want to write to its founder and say, you almost had me, but then you lost the connection. Anyway, give it a spin. But if you look at the website, talk to someone who always listens. It's trying to get you to start a behavior. Talk to someone. Hungry, Volt. Do this. Do action on digital technology. Action via digital technology. Not thinking, not perception, not feelings. On the other hand, something called Wobot. Yes, please.
And is it a real person there, or is it like
No, it's just
artificial?
it's not even AI yet. It's just a piece of software that replies stuff. Yeah. I mean, what is called AI now is a huge debate. I mean, what is AI? What isn't AI? How intelligent is it? You just call it a chatbot because it's an automatic piece of software that responds when you talk to it.
Yeah, that's sad.
Sorry?
That's really sad.
It depends. It depends. Yeah, it depends. Yeah, that's an ethical question. Philosophy and ethics for another class, maybe. Not really. I will actually go into the ethics of behavior design at one point. In fact, I sent a new updated slide specifically for that. But that conversation is so deep that we'll waste time there if we take it up today. But it's probably the biggest, elephant in the room when it comes to this subject, and I'm very aware of that. Yeah. Excellent point. Next, people. Yeah. So this one here. Do you see any behavioral interventions here? Kale, do you see any behavioral interventions here on this product?
On that product?
Yeah.
I don't know that product, so.
Just from this screen, it's a screenshot from the web site of this app called Wobot.
Well, woe is a word that immediately makes me question if I have woes currently. So it kind of brings me down from, so if I'm happy then I'm starting, oh no, am I really happy?
Yes, yeah. On the screen, is there any call to action? Is there anything that asks you to do a behavior? What is behavior? Guys, for the context of this class, someone? Repeat please. What is behavior? Loudly. Action on digital technology. Yeah, is there anything here you can do on this?
Why?
Sorry?
UI says hi, so
Sorry?
you should say something.
Huh?
It says hi, so you should say
So, no. So, this is a web page.
I don't know.
This is a web page. This is just an image. This is just an image.
There's no
These
action
are links
button.
here. These are 4 links.
The only call to action is a download or get it on, basically.
Exactly, right? I mean, the only calls to action here are only behaviors you can do on this interface.
Download the app.
Download the app on either App Store or on Google Play. Google Play? Yeah, Google Play. Yeah? But you can also click on these links. That's also a behavior. I'm trying to make it very simple here. Every interface is trying to get you to do a particular behavior. And behavior design is as concrete and as simple as that. Links on the top, right? So you have these behaviors, which you can do here. And why is this not? Yeah. And you have these behaviors that you can do there. Yeah. But if you think about it, you start seeing that these behaviors there are different types, right? And usually, you see that these 2 types of behaviors are what all kinds of digital services or apps or products are trying to get you to do. Some of them are about getting information and knowledge, like this. Like this. These are all about getting information or knowledge. They are links which show you what is the science behind the bot, what's going on in the community, about us, the company, who are the employers, right? Yeah.
But doesn't it depends on where do you want the customer to land? If it's about downloading your app straight away, would you want to go and take the shorter route for them to do so by giving them information? Or do you want them to understand what you're offering, therefore they would want to find out more information? So if you are
Exactly.
Volt and you want them to download your app, you say hungry, get Volt.
Yes.
But if you want them to understand what is the chatbot behind my technology thing or whatever it would do for you, then maybe it's not about straight downloading your app, but understanding what that does to you.
You're absolutely right. So and we will get into this a lot more later, but the behaviors that you're interface, your UI, should be driven by your business goals, should be driven by your company goals, right? But it's not so simple. The reason I'm showing you this exercise is because we have understood that behavior is action on digital technology, but there are different types of actions. And these are the two main types of actions. If you look at your interfaces, you'll see that a lot of the stuff that interfaces get you to do are simply to give you information or give you knowledge, right? And other things that interfaces or products want you to do are task-oriented. And from a cognitive point of view, from a mental point of view, these are two very different things. Seeking information, the science, just clicking on that, what's going on, what's the science behind it? You want to read it. It's a behavior you're doing, but you're doing it just to get some knowledge about this robot, right? But when you're trying to get on Google Play, you're getting into a task. Does it make sense? And the reason why interfaces are so complex and we have so much digital fatigue today is because interfaces confuse these two things all the time. Could you show me some information or knowledge related behaviors here? Call to behaviors that are knowledge related. Stats. Go ahead, guys. Stats. Absolutely right, right? Stats. If I click on stats, I'm going to see what is the analytics of this website and so on. It's giving me knowledge, right? But for example, could you give me an example of a task-related behavior? Sorry? Loudly, guys, you're right. It's like fail forward, people. Come on.
Create new site.
Sorry?
The green ones. Create new site.
Create new site. Absolutely, right? It's a workflow. You want to create a new site, you have to click on it. It's a whole process there, right? Earn rewards. Manage a site on iOS. Spread the love. It's also a task. You're essentially going down a series of steps to accomplish a goal through that interface. You're using it as a tool. In this case, you're using it as a piece of reference, as a knowledge artifact. So the problem with the current interfaces, which I think are super primitive, we are in a very kind of early stone age of product development when it comes to software, digital software, is that it's so heavy to use because one second you're thinking, I have to get the job done, and another second you're thinking, I want to consume information. You're in knowledge mode and task mode, knowledge mode and task mode. And places like Facebook are extremely heavy, extremely tiring because you're constantly jumping between them. You go there to make an update, which is a task. You just want to post an update. You're in a restaurant and you want to post an update that I'm having a meal at this place. But you go there, you see an information, you see a notification which says, hey, your best friend has his birthday tomorrow. So you jump out of task mode to knowledge mode. And then while you're looking at the birthday, so when you're designing a behavior, it's important to understand if you want to take the user down a path to help them accomplish a task, are you being a tool to them or are you serving them information? There's two distinctions there which are pretty important. All right, so now for a little interaction. I just want you to chat a little bit and maybe talk about or sketch a few behaviors of yours in your real life which are driven by the apps that you use. What do you do in your real life that you do because you're pushed by apps or services or products? Anything digital. It could be an ATM, it could be, any other interface, digital product. It doesn't have to be something on a phone. It could be on a tablet, computer. But have a quick one, just like 10 minutes.
Yeah, I'm focusing social, but probably like just a phone. So we can say right things about your sketching, no idea what. any kind of behavior that seems like digital technology can be for anything. Even like drawing cash or drawing video or I don't know exactly what he explained.
Actually, that's the whole point. But if the app pushes you, for example, if an app says, hey,
You know, and if what you do is they need actions or therefore the behavior involved. So I don't
it's a real world behavior, which is the push. I mean, yeah, it's just a reflective exercise.
yeah, basically commenting what is
One way to do it is to open up your phones and look at stuff.
I'm not sure to understand. Yeah, let's only so much knowledge first. Or for example, every time I just have events, social, I check already if you have a Twitter account and it doesn't, and if you have one, I would post like a picture of like a Kickstarter, this workshop with me, blah blah blah, art is the short term. So I tend to do that just to, well, show what I'm doing and or exposing that I'm attending this event, real comment.
And you're talking and just then you just have a lot of distraction. Yeah, no, but I actually my friends usually like the more just to check. Then friends important things I post on Facebook like talk about supply chain. But I have more like for in hearts in checking.
Yeah, like following up.
I don't get it. I really don't. Who cares where I am? I don't care. It's like, what's the
Wait, just keep
So you want to do sports, you use your app, you go and you take a time. That's one.
I do it on my home. I really do it by YouTube. I think it's a bit easier. I don't like posting. Yes, you can say
'84 after. Yeah, it depends on where you see the definition. Or you don't want to follow the behavior of the millennials. That's different, but
I think there was also some definition about the kind of born around. They have also like a little bit different.
yeah, definitely. Well, nowadays kids from like 1 year old have iPad in the end and they don't want to use it. They're digital natives.
What I do is like I try to remember something in their childhood. They have kind of analog childhood. And
Later on, they were teenagers. Yeah, it's not sure. Yeah. Now if you open it, you're born into the next generation. When they are generation before that, put it in their life.
Okay guys, okay. We have a lot of fun stuff ahead, so
That's really
I'm gonna pause you. Hold on. Anybody found any gold mines? Anybody found any great insights? Stuff that you do, yes.
Notifications are better than alarms.
Notifications are better than alarms. That's profound. It is actually interesting. An alarm is kind of like this thing that triggers you to do it. Like it's got pressure to act on it now. A notification gives you the option to engage, right? Is that how you mean it?
Yeah, but it makes me a better.
A notification makes you up better. Oh, interesting. But then you leave your phone on and you can hear when a notification arrives?
Yeah.
Ah, okay. I silence my phone when I see it. I have to, it just keeps pinging, you know? And so, it's a good point. Yeah, and that's really interesting because I see, for example, what used to be a like button on Facebook has now become, you have a like button, you have a smiley face, you have an angry face, you have a big laughing one. Why? Because a like by itself is not a signifier of what is the quality that you want to convey. When you say like, do you like it because you're laughing about it, or do you like it because you agree about a political point of view, or do you like it because you think it's an important question that has to be discussed, but you don't actually enjoy it?
Yeah.
So notifications are becoming more diverse. Explicit signaling is becoming more diverse, and notifications will become more diverse. I think it's really sad that notifications today just have this number on them, 15 there. But I want to know how many of them are important to me. How many of them are to be acted on today? How many of them are for my family? How many of them for my close friends? Right? Why does a notification, and if Facebook is listening, just don't put a number there. Give me some idea, maybe some color, a color gradient graph, I don't know, like a pie chart to say, you have 3 or 4 different kinds of likes there. So if it's all just red, and it's only about people's birthdays, I won't check it anyways. Because I don't want to know today whose birthday it is. I'm busy,
Maybe if it's your wife's birthday, you need to know.
Well, if it's my wife's birthday and I don't know, then we are not in a marriage anymore. Let's put it that way. But it's yes, there is a case where it might be necessary. Anyways, but anybody want to share any other insight from this conversation?
We are screwed up without mobile phones. Almost everything is done nowadays online. We don't have offline life anymore.
I'm sorry to hear you say that. You're not living an online life. You're living an offline life, but you're living an offline life triggered by your online services. So that thing is between you and me. That's all. It's not like replacing you or me. It's a channel for us to communicate and coordinate and do stuff together. So, but the point is, you're right, that I just want to create an awareness today. I mean, my intention is when you're going home tonight, you're on the metro looking at something, or tomorrow morning, I want you to realize that, oh, this stuff, I'm actually doing it because something through my digital device has triggered it. And you will see, you'll start getting cognizant of that. And then you start to understand behavior design much better. But in order to understand behavior design, and before we even do anything with digital or physical or paper, we need to understand what is behavior, right? We need to understand how behavior works. That's the cool part. That's the fun stuff. Yes, go ahead.
You want to know, her example was very interesting.
Yes, please, more examples. Yeah.
We are similar. We're stalkers. So first, we look when we don't do anything, and then suddenly it gets you, and then you start liking stuff or following stuff, and then later on it brings you to action.
Yes.
But I also believe that the behavior and the change that technology does to you is that also you start first lurking.
Yes, absolutely.
And then it gets you in. So it's also interesting what technology does to you when you don't want it.
You're absolutely right.
It pushes you in.
You're absolutely right. So the term behavior itself is a little bit kind of confusing, and I'm trying to work on this to make it more everything understandable. But you said, you start by observing, then you do something else, and you do something else, and something else, and something else, and something else, right? These are little actions, micro actions you take on a digital device or on a computer or wherever. These are also behaviors, right? But then the longer term thing, you've shifted from doing things this way to doing it a completely different way. The long term behavior change is also behavior. So I just want you to be aware that it's a great example, because these little micro behaviors, they change your mega behaviors. And also the digital and the physical stuff happens here.
Creates addiction though.
Addiction is a very specific form of behavioral change, and we will talk about it a little bit. But yes, some of it does. Yeah. Any more points? Great. So I want to go into a few concepts, and the reason I'm running a little bit is because here if we take more time, it's better. This is more heavy stuff. I want to talk about a few concepts on how behavior works. And I kind of have like 5 or 6 core concepts which I personally think is the core of behavior design after reading and studying it for half a decade maybe. But I brought you only 3 today, just for interest of time. The first one is called self-concept or positive self-concept. Everybody can see the screen? Okay. Yeah, so the first one is called, wow, I have coffee. Positive self-concept. Positive self-concept is, you can explain it, it's self-explanatory. It's an idea from psychology, a concept from psychology, that we all have a self-image or a self-concept of who we are. It's a complex thing, based on your background, it's just your whole life of experience. You have an idea about yourself. And we ideally would like this idea to be positive. It's very hard to live with a negative self-concept, right? Even, I'm sorry to say, but people who commit crimes, or people who do all kinds of things which could be considered, in other cases, in general cases, they could be considered immoral or unethical or bad or terrible. Even they don't sit around thinking, I'm a horrible guy all the time. Even they have a positive self-concept, right? Because we need that in order to survive. Your positive self-concept is what gives you an identity, and it gives your identity a continuity. It's your story. It's who you tell yourself that you are. It looks like that. And the core thing about a positive self-concept when it comes to action and behavior is that you want to feel good about what you're doing. I feel good about this. Whatever you do it because, and you keep doing it, or the way you kind of want to feel about your life is that I feel good about it, right? But the world is a complex world. And we have limited cognitive capacity. When I say cognitive, please replace the word with mental. The word cognitive is too heavy, but we kind of psychologists throw it around a lot. It just means mental processes, the stuff inside your head. Your cognitive capacity is limited. There's imperfect information in the world, and you usually have time constraints. And you want to feel good pretty much all the time. You want to feel good about yourself and your life. So what you do is something what designers call and psychologists call satisficing. It's a key concept. It's a design concept. Satisficing is making do with something because it's a satisfactory solution. I am satisfied. Right? Making do with a situation, a choice, a product, a decision, as long as it meets certain satisfactory boundaries and guidelines, we go with it. This is a example, this is a photograph from this airline called June. And if you notice this, if you look at this airline, look at this picture, one of their promotional pictures, new airline launched for millennials. It's targeted at the millennial market, came out some months ago in France, I think. The idea, well, you can see that the clear difference here is that the attendants are young. You don't always get young, or you can get any age of attendant, but this is clearly looks like young people in an airline, right? Like hosting you in an airline. Now, that's one of the ways for a brand or a product to communicate to yourself your own positive self-concept. Leveraging a positive self-concept helps you or helps users, consumers, make decisions in a complex world. Picking an airline, terribly hard. Okay, maybe easy for some. Some people just go with a budget. Some people go with, they have preferences. But in a pretty complex world, you can't process all the information. It's just too much to figure out. There's so many options, especially if you're flying like a route which is, got lots of airlines, lots of options, lots of fares, things like that. You usually make these decisions with very little time. You refer to things that make you feel good as a shortcut. You refer to things that reinforce your positive self-concept to make decisions. And those decisions are usually not very optimal. They are suboptimal decisions. They're not made because you have looked at all the information that's possible, you have all the time in the world, and that you have all the brain capacity to process it. They are made because you've been operating out of something called bounded rationality. I told you this is going to get a bit heavy. So do you understand how the positive self-concept is kind of being leveraged and how it plays out? Yeah? Makes sense. This is a beautiful concept. If you Google this bounded rationality, guys have won Nobel Prizes for that. It's been much researched and discussed, and it goes on in behavioral economics and psychology. But the basic idea, I like to understand things in a very simple way, is that we basically live like this. We're living with blinders on. And it's an evolutionary kind of a mechanism, because if we were always processing all the information and had all the capacity and all the time, it wouldn't be this world at all. This world is a world of limits. We are creatures of limits. And so we use shortcuts. And we have biases. And we operate within, we call ourselves rational, but the reasons why we make decisions are actually much more irrational than we would like to believe. And at the core of all that is maintaining your positive self-concept. You will not do things that do not make you feel good. That's the key. And many times, human decision-making and human understanding is a product of confirmation. People already decide if they like something, and then they make up a reason for why they decided, why they like it. This is a kind of a shift in, behavioral thinking, and the shift that behavioral thinking, behavioral economics, all of these areas are providing this understanding to us that we are not creatures who think through things carefully, rational creatures, think of all the options, weigh the options, think of what am I giving, what am I getting. No, you don't make your decisions based on that. You decide because the other one next to you made that decision. You decide because the color resonated with you. You decide because it has brought up a memory, triggered an emotion, created some sort of an impulse. Not all the time, but a large percentage of the time. We use shortcuts to make decisions all the time, but we always make decisions that will reinforce our positive self-concept. Core idea. And companies, products, digital, non-digital, have been using this forever. For example, Slack, marketing webpage. You're in good company. Trying to convince you to use Slack. Right? LVMH, that's a luxury brand. That's pretty good company to be in. Right? John Hopkins. That's interesting, isn't it? This is like the pinnacle of luxury, capitalism, all of the stuff, like all the most hardcore, in some sense, conservative ideals of corporate global capitalism, right? Louis Vuitton, right? And on the other hand, you had John Hopkins, which is a medical center known for its, its giving and its social impact. So the Slack is telling you that both Louis Vuitton and John Hopkins, I mean that's the whole freaking spectrum of organizations you can imagine, are actually working with us. We help them. So you're an awesome company. Reinforces your positive self-concept wherever you are on that scale. Right? It's a piece of marketing. There's no behavior here yet. It's not asking you to do anything, but they will, right? Soon. If you go down the page. By the way, great product. Nothing against Slack. I love them. So I want you to talk a little bit about, think a little bit about your own positive self-concept and products that reinforce them. Again, just a quick brain toss. Questions, please ask me, or if you have a comment, please say it.
Like the apps that we use to feel.
How do what you use make you feel good?
Okay.
Yeah. You don't have to maybe talk in detail about yourself, but it's more like how does that make you feel good when you use it? Yeah? You could always open up your phones because that's the only device you have. I'm not app crazy, but just open it up and explore.
Have 20,000 steps and it's like, yes, 1,000,
choice of two the same
Yeah, that's the point is to make you use the more.
Oh yeah, I just want and there's a second session.
I'm almost afraid to
So
No, I was just thinking in general, like I think the most common thing is like
Like that's the thing.
Like,
But it's true that it makes you happy if you, like, if you just updated your profile picture or like if you just posted like a quote that you really think it's inspiring. If you get like one like you're so possible, why are people not, but if you get like 10 like or people more liking it and more and more, then I guess it makes you feel positive, it's true.
For me, it's like, you have an average of like, you know how much like you do. So when you post something, there's like,
You know my average. So I'm gonna change my profile picture because it's not good enough, right?
And then I took a while to understand that for Instagram was about the time, it's about the place you want. I know that there's a different character. I know, if I did my sponsors, somehow my niche is not clear. Even if my cell phone is Google understands it.
Alright guys, how's that going? Nice. Lots of good debate. Any cool examples on how a product may have reinforced your positive self-concept? Hi guys. Any good examples on how a product may have reinforced your positive self-concept? Yes, please.
I realized that during the summer I was learning loads of stuff on YouTube, like new skills.
Yes.
So the fact that there was like small portions of information of practical skills that I could learn, like digital stuff or like editing a video or something, that made me feel like I'm growing and doing something useful for my life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's a key thing, isn't it? Like all learning products, every product that helps you learn something has to keep you on track and has to reinforce the effort, has to reward you for the effort that you've been making, and it has to give you some feedback that you're actually learning something. And that's a great point. Yeah, it happens all over the place. Yes.
Yeah, we were just discussing that having all those applications on your phone kind of make you feel in charge of your life, that you have the banking, you have your calendar, you have you know everything, your friends, your relationships, and you can manage everything.
Yes.
Of course, communicating with people you are near and dear ones.
Yeah. Is there anything, could you go one level deeper and think about how it's, any example of how you're positive, like how does it make you feel good about who you are? Because you are different from other people.
When you get information, you share information. That makes you feel good.
Right? Alright. Sharing is fun.
Yeah, but also it feels like maybe you can handle workloads, or you can handle like you're structured or whatever it
Yes.
makes you feel.
The sense of empowerment.
Yeah.
Yes. That's a good point. Yeah. Please.
Here we were talking about what are the apps that make you have happy thoughts and trigger an emotion that is actually positive compared to what is work related, or if you hear a special sound, Spotify or notification that has a particular sound that reminds you of family or someone special in your life,
Yes.
then that's the one you want to interact with because it has a happy emotion in it.
Absolutely. And that, I think embedding an emotion into that sort of an interaction trigger is super key.
So we're
Super key.
talking about Spotify or alarm clocks or apps that are specially used by your family or your loved ones from your country of origin.
Yes.
Things like that.
Good stuff. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Moreover, if you have a device in hand, you feel like you're a superhuman. You can go to anything.
That's actually super. That's very interesting because you're saying
You don't have to stand in line to wait for any bills.
yes.
You can do
That's
just
actually
go
so
online.
interesting because that is technology itself boosts your positive self-concept, right? I am cool. So that's the difference between. I think that's why the people nowadays it's sad, but in a country like Finland, I guess anywhere, but a country like Finland, where everyone has a smartphone. People who don't have smartphones on the metro, they look lost. They kind of they stick out a little bit because they're just sitting there, and everyone else is looking at them like, what are you doing with your time? Like, why are you wasting your time? You know, it's amazing how things have gone wrong. But it's almost like we are the superhumans with the tools, and like, are you living in the Stone Ages or what's up with you?
I want
Empowerment.
to contradict that one with the example that I had, which was on the opposite scale. It's listening to news articles on a sort of voice read nanoparticles,
Yes.
which allows you to get away from your phone. That makes me feel extremely happy.
Yes.
It's still tied to the phone, it's still a digital service, it's still the phone that's doing it, but it's
Yes.
actually freeing me from staring at the screen
Oh, absolutely.
and doing my, brushing my teeth and listening to the
Oh,
articles
absolutely.
instead. So it's actually liberating that.
Yes, absolutely. And I think there's a landmark paper on what's it called, disappearing technology, written already in the 90s. Or calm technology, and that is the future of digital. This is a pit stop on the way. These things that we have, we're going to just embed, and the more they vanish, the better. Personally speaking. So yeah, they're empowering, but I really think, just as a general note, staying away from screens as much as you can is a great idea. Yeah. So will technology that has receded into the backgrounds of our lives, that's what the paper says, Mark Weiser. Will technology that has just receded into the environment, will it still reinforce our positive self-concept? It's a good thing to think about. Yeah? But positive self-concept. Now the next thing we're going to go into is a related, fascinating area of behavioral science, developed in the 50s, I think, cognitive dissonance. What does the word cognitive mean, people? That's it, right? Nothing too complicated. It's mental dissonance. So you have a positive. Hi, I'm jumping into concept 2. I'm jumping into the second core concept of behavior design and change. So please pay attention. No worries. So it's called cognitive dissonance. You have a positive self-concept, but not always do we have a positive self-concept. Sometimes we feel we are in conflict with our image of ourselves, or our image of ourselves is not really that much fun. It's not really that positive. And a cognitive dissonance is a state of discomfort, state of mental discomfort, which kind of pushes you to restore your positive self-concept. Make sense? You're not feeling good, you do something, or you change something. You have to change something in your environment or in your life or in your mind to feel good again, because we want to constantly feel good. Right? Nobody wants to feel bad for a length of time. It's avoiding pain and seeking pleasure is kind of fundamental to human beings. By the way, I'm not advocating all of this stuff. So I'm not, advocating hedonism or digital technology. I'm just giving you how it works, kind of, right? So I'm not a preacher on this stuff. So, classic Aesop's fables. Psychology is as old as it comes. Aesop's fables was a guy who was writing in the BCs, right? Greek storyteller. Fox and the grapes. Everyone knows this story. Fox goes to the grapes, desires the grapes, tries to reach for the grapes, and something happens. The grapes are just too high, right? So what happens here is that everything, every being, and these stories are about human beings, of course, they're about human psychology, not animal psychology. Fox obviously has a sense of self-worth. I am a cool fox. I'm okay. I'm doing good. Or maybe he thinks he's awesome, right? Or she's awesome. So the fox has a positive self-concept. Tries to reach for a reward. Doesn't get the reward. Nada. Too far. Too high. What do you do when you have, the fox then has a cognitive dissonance. So it's a conflict between your different cognitions, and that's where the word cognitive comes. Cognitions can be attitudes, they can be internal subjective states, but interestingly, behaviors are also considered cognitions. So, let me stay with me here. It's a bit tricky. It took me a couple of years to figure this out, or something like that, but I'm trying to make it simple for you. When your attitudes, your perceptions, your beliefs, your ideas, and your behaviors, when any of these things conflict with each other, we get into a state of mental discomfort known as cognitive dissonance. And in order to resolve that dissonance, we will change one of these things. So you could change when you have a cognitive dissonance, discomfort, in order to get back to a state of consonance, state of comfort, you could change your attitude, you could change your perception, you could change your belief, or you could change your behavior. So for example, and that's what is justification, right? When you don't change your behavior, you could change one of these things. So the fox walks away, but he walks away not thinking that I'm a loser, which is also a change of perception, right? You have to somehow resolve this thing, like I want that grapes, but I can't get it. So he walks away either saying I'm a loser, which is a negative way to change a cognition, to resolve the dissonance, or he walks away saying the classic thing, the grapes are too sour anyways. They don't look really fresh. So in order to resolve the dissonance that comes, to change a perception, he has literally changed what he saw 10 minutes ago. It seemed like juicy, awesome grapes. Now you're like, not really, they look actually not that good. Why? Because he couldn't get them. Happens all the time. Behavior change during cognitive dissonance. I'll let you enjoy this comic strip, or I'll read it for you. It's from Dilbert. Dilbert is like full of psychology, by the way. Some of the best stuff, as well as Calvin and Hobbes, of course. Why should I hire you as my consultant? So like, I'll use my special process of cognitive dissonance to improve employee morale. This guy's like, how does it work? He says, when people are in an absurd situation, their minds rationalize it by inventing a comfortable illusion. Okay? That's of course dark, Adam's humor. And he says, okay, go do it. So let me repeat that. When people are in an absurd situation, it's absurd, it's not making sense, their minds rationalize it by inventing a comfortable illusion to restore a positive self-concept, right? Why else would you invent that illusion? Isn't it strange? So this guy goes to an employee and says, isn't it strange that you have this dead-end job when you're twice as smart as your boss, the hours are long, the pay is mediocre, nobody respects your contributions, and yet you freely choose to work here? And this guy's like, it's absurd, but wait, there must be a reason. I work here because I love the job. Right? And this guy's like, no, I love this job. And the dog bird is like, next, Bring it on. I can actually imagine real consultants being paid to do this. I mean, a lot of them actually probably get employed as full-time employees. And it happens all the time. You'll see it all around. Now that I'm giving you these really kind of dangerous ideas, you don't know whether to like them or not like them. This is the problem. You'll find them all around you. But that's fantastic. So that's why I'm trying to build the concepts one on top of each other. You have a positive self-concept. When that positive self-concept is disturbed, messed with in life, because of life situations, you want to restore consonance through rationalizing or changing your behavior. You either change your mindset or you change your behavior. Action or behavior, we said behavior, digital action, remember, action is a way of resolving your cognitive dissonance. It's one way to resolve the state of discomfort. I'll give you a couple of beautiful examples. Any questions at this point? Thank you very much, that helps me. I'll give you a couple of really cool examples. This guy called Edward Bernays, he emigrated to the US. He was Sigmund Freud's nephew. And he pretty much is kind of credited with creating the field of PR. He did this campaign called Torches of Freedom. You can read about it online, for the large tobacco companies. Essentially, it was a campaign, a PR campaign, about getting women to smoke. At that point, in the US and anywhere else, women smoking was a taboo. It was just not considered a cool thing for a woman to smoke, or a lady to smoke. But what he did was, but this women's lib and the feminist movement was just picking up in the US. There was lots of rallies, women carrying stuff on the streets and protesting, and their voice was coming out in public. He came up with this, one of his master ideas, evil genius, I don't know, but he got these good-looking model type women to show up at these rallies. They were paid, I think they were planted there, to hang out there in cool clothes and smoke. And he created that association that if you're a modern woman seeking her independence, you probably will smoke as a form of rebellion, a torch of freedom. And that picked up. This one PR campaign is almost credited single-handedly for shifting that market, the smoking market, away from what used to be Marlboro Man on a horse to women smoking, and see the results now. Torches of freedom. What happened here? Essentially what he did was he created a cognitive dissonance. Women are thinking, I'm free, I'm modern, right? But free women smoke. So, am I really free if I don't smoke? It's a conflict. So you have to resolve it by either changing. Remember, the change is not always behavioral. The change can be attitudinal. So some women would have said, well, I don't care. I'm not going to smoke because that's what good women do. Reinforce an existing belief.
So that's a freedom by choice.
Sorry?
That's a freedom by choice.
It's a freedom by, you mean to smoke or not to smoke? Absolutely. I think all human action is a choice, actually. Even though many times well, that's debatable. That's a different one. Yeah. Anyways, but the point is that you could change your attitude. They could reinforce their belief and say, well, I'm pretty sure women smoking is not a good thing. They could change their belief and say something like, well, I actually don't care. I won't smoke, but I think it's okay that women smoke. Or they could change their belief into, yeah, smoking is cool. It is, a torch of freedom. And that could lead to an actual behavioral change. So creating a cognitive dissonance and what comes out of it is not that straightforward, but it can be done. More examples. Organ donation, something much better. If you look at this chart, this is taken by Dan Ariely, who's like a leading behavioral economist. Just read him, he's amazing. At least he popularized this idea. If you see there's Sweden on one side and Norway, both of these countries, Scandinavian, very close to each other, very similar culturally, you would say. But when it comes to organ kind of donation, Sweden's way up there and Denmark is like way down here. And this is like a funny statistic. Why do these two countries, which are so similar in so many ways, they think so similarly compared to the rest of the world? Why is there such a big difference? Turns out it's the design of the form for organ donation. So effective consent rate by countries is explicit consent, where the opt-in is kind of, so essentially what is this trying to say is in Denmark, you had a box where it said, tick here if you want to donate organs. And in the Swedish form, it basically says, tick here if you do not want to donate organs. Right? So it's the default choice available to you in these forms is fundamentally different. It's just how they were designed. It was nobody's plan. But the guy who designed the Danish form, the person, said tick here if you want to donate it. And the Swedish form is designed where it says tick here if you don't want to. So when you see a default option, you essentially have a cognitive dissonance which says tick here if I don't want to. That means most people are doing it. So I am a good person, so I will donate. That's what these people are thinking. How did they resolve the cognitive dissonance? By going with the default. How did these guys, they didn't have that dissonance. It was just like an option for them. Tick here if you want to donate your organs. They were like, nah, I'm fine. It's just a choice. But whereas you say, tick here if you don't want to, you're already part of the majority that is donating the organs, and you feel like, do I want to explicitly say that I don't want to? It's like saying, tick here if you don't want to vote. You're never going to say that. Whether you vote or not, that's a different thing. So this is not organ donation rates, this is the consent given by people for organ donation, right? It uses cognitive dissonance, right? And then finally, this is one of the great examples of cognitive dissonance ever. A couple of ads from De Beers, or these diamond makers. The idea that diamonds are forever, the ultimate symbol of love, the ultimate symbol of romance. This is an ad, right? Could you analyze this for me? Does this ad evoke a cognitive dissonance?
Usually you see God created man.
Mm-hmm. Take your time. I'll read it for you.
Well, yeah,
What's the-
it's like after so many years of practice, your woman came out so perfect, and she maybe deserves everything perfect.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely there. It says God created woman, then after several many years of practice, He created yours. So first of all, the He here, I don't have a problem with it being God created woman, but saying that God is a man, that's a bit like old school. Seriously, guys? I mean, I see this all the time. I see this all the word mankind. I'm just so tired of this word. Like, it's on slides everywhere, like mankind. Like, it's not mankind, people, it's humankind. He created God. Anyways. But they are diamond makers, they're old school. Yeah. Anyways. But yeah. It's trying to say that this particular individual that you're with is so amazing that you need to buy her the ultimate token of love, which is a diamond, right? Gift her that ultimate thing. So the dissonance created is that, do you love your girl? Not only that, do you love her because she's ultimate. She's that perfect million after millions of years of creation which He made. And if you really love her, then this is the ultimate way to show it, giving her a diamond. So how do you resolve that dissonance? You either have to say, it's bullshit, I don't believe in that, I'm just a hippie, or, why not? I call myself a hippie many times. I don't think being a hippie anymore is what you wear, or, you know what I mean? Like, it's a way of saying that I don't need these kind of somehow super commercial avenues to justify myself.
Not a hipster.
No, I'm not a hipster actually. I don't think I have. A hipster is a generational thing. I come a little bit before hipsters. I think. But definitely more a hippie, I guess, in my heart. In some sense, maybe. But you can justify it in so many ways. I am this, I am that. You can ignore it and say, I don't believe in that. That's not how I want to show my love. And that's one way to resolve that dissonance. Some people do that. Some other people will say, well, that's true, but I'm just too broke. I'll do it next year. I'll do it the year after.
You're stingy.
Or or I'm sorry, but someone might think, well, that's not my girl you're talking about. that relationship is not really going far. There's all kinds of ways to get out of that dilemma, but it does create, the point I'm trying to make is that it creates that dissonance from where, and others will just buy the diamond. I mean, this stuff is effective. Diamond sales are soaring. They're always going through the roof because these guys have programmed into us the idea that this sparkling clear stone, and it's a beautiful stone, I like stones myself, but how did diamond get that position that rubies or emeralds or sapphires or amethysts or there's a zillion other awesome stones, how did the diamond get positioned there? Through messaging like this. Creates a dissonance, you act on the dissonance. Yeah? Another ad. Did I show you that? Oh yeah, this is another ad. I just wanted to put it there because is your love in the air or is it set in stone? Brilliant piece of writing. I mean, as an ex-copywriter myself, I love good advertising, I must say. Is it playing on it? Is it in the air or is it set in stone? I mean, how long are you thinking? How serious is this to you? And every relationship, especially early relationships, go through that phase where they're like, okay, is this for real? Am I going to stick with this person? Do I want to have kids with this person? Do I want to go old with this person? You're thinking of all these things. at that time it's playing on that dissonance that you have and saying, if you're really serious, get her a diamond.
In fact, in Helsinki, I saw one board in the top.
Yeah.
He said that a beer is as cold as your ex.
Yes, I know. I actually saw that on Instagram. Beer as cold as your ex. That one, I would say, is more reinforces your positive self-concept. It's not creating a dissonance, right? It's just saying you agree. And most people, well, I don't know, but I hope most people don't agree with that. But a lot of people do, like, yeah, that's right, let's go have that cold beer right now. Right? It's a very guy thing as well, I don't know, maybe.
But to comment on this ad,
Please.
it's not heteronormative and it's very inclusive. I appreciate
Yeah.
that it's.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think all of them are so. Yeah. And then if you want to have a good time with someone who's intelligent, just Google D Beers Diamonds ads. You have a lot of fake ads, like guys who've made fun ads just in the same format. They are hilarious. I accidentally put a few of them on a slide, and then I realized, oh my god, it's a fake ad. It is ads by gay people, addressing gay people. Excellent, like obviously done to to mess with you. Stuff like that, and then there was a couple of other ads which were like, what else was it? Yeah, like really hitting below the belt. Like some of them were just really taking your trip. I'm not sure if De Beers or I don't know if any of the diamond makers have extended these ads to the gay market, for example, because that would be a really cool idea. It is most of the advertising, as far as I've seen, the traditional idea of love is between man and woman. It's very marriage oriented, it's very long term. So yeah, I would expect to see more ads moving in the other areas soon.
There is already a company, they selling diamonds rings by online. So you can choose, like a McDonald's, but for diamond rings.
I'm sure there are.
Yeah, number one, I want like this, the size, the type of
I
stone.
hope there are, yeah.
Yeah, and the advertisement, they have many now because it's a new thing, and they are using finally gay couples. And
They are, yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. That's really good.
It's really interesting. They have many, like the girl proposing for the guy or whatever they're trying to.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly,
But it's
exactly.
interesting how they bring this. So how to say? When you imagine diamond rings, you think about people going to the store and have this conversation, and now you just can click and choose exactly how your budget can fit.
That's behavior change.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know if you start customizing diamonds, if it's so precious, if it's so special anymore. I don't know.
But it's personal.
It's millennial.
It's personalized.
No kidding, I have no
Because it's
idea.
like it's something unique for yourself.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
not something
In
you
a way,
just bought.
it's
but
unique
like,
as well
There
because
is
you
a
made it
research.
your way, so nobody else will have it the same.
True that. Yeah, absolutely. Talking of personalization is super kind of, today it's the buzzword. Every app, every service wants to be personalizable. There's a super interesting example I can give you from the same guy who did this Torches of Freedom. He did the just add an egg thing, which was fantastic. There was these baking companies. They wanted to sell instant bake mix, and their sales were not enough. So you got the bake mix in a box, and you mix it in water and you put it in the oven. Out came a cake. But this guy came up with the idea to increase sales. He came up with the idea that you just add an egg, and apparently sales really went up. And the reason was that when whoever made the cake, typically the lady of the household, added an egg, it felt like it was a personalized. It wasn't just taking it out the box and making a cake, which like anybody can do that, but when you add an egg, it's yours. You made it. Yeah? Real story, no bullshit. So anyways, does this feature create cognitive dissonance?
Yeah.
Alright, how's that? I want someone who's not spoken before. Next to Vishnu. Hi. Hey. Okay. Yeah? Or Yeah, go for it. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, sure it does, because you see that so many friends of yours are interested in going to that event, so you're like, should I go there too?
That's right. Could you go a bit deeper?
You think, are you cool enough to go there too?
Exactly. It depends on who's going, right? It creates a cognitive dissonance, but it only creates enough strong dissonance if people you really like are going there. I don't think Facebook has gone that far yet. Because to be very honest, all of my friends are cool. This is from me. All of my friends are cool, but it depends on what you're talking about. If it's a startup event, I think some friends are I'm more interested in the ideas of some friends than some other friends. If it's art, then my influencers are someone else. But right now, it's just generically showing me some of my friends. So their algorithms have not yet got that strong as to really create a cognitive dissonance in me, even though that is the first level attempt. That's why I say these products are going to keep getting better. The more they learn about you, the more they'll be able to turn your internal kind of discomfort into behavior, which is not necessarily what I recommend, but I'll come to that. The third super important concept, so we did positive self-concept, building on that we did cognitive dissonance, we're going to do motivation, a word that everybody knows and everybody uses, it's everywhere, but my God, is it hard to understand. Motivation is like this amazingly complex puzzle, and I just love it. I really enjoy studying it. So we'll touch upon some of the key areas from a design perspective. Motivation can be something that you are motivated towards. Someone's running. What is the running there? What is this running? What is it?
Action.
It's a behavior, right? It's a behavior, right? So this person who's running is driven towards things that are positive, like you could run for health. You're motivated towards health. You're motivated towards fitness. You're motivated towards success. I want to win a marathon. Yeah? I could be motivated towards winning. I could be motivated towards relaxation. Whatever is driving the positive impulse behind a particular action. And we tend to think of motivation as something, when you say, let's motivate the people, let's be more motivated, you think it's something necessarily positive, but actually motivation is working with you in also negative ways. This is another Dilbert. I'm not sure if everyone gets it, but this guy's, the boss says, the word sheeple is a play on the word sheep and people, yeah. It's time to motivate the sheeple. He just goes there and says, Lehman Brothers. This guy freaks out and starts working. Of course, because Lehman Brothers, you know, it's the bad story. Big banking collapse. So, we kind of, yeah. This job got a lot easier when I realized that motivation and fear are the same thing. So, you're not always motivated by positive stuff, you're also motivated by avoidance, by negative things you want to avoid. The same person who's running could be running because the person is delayed. Discomfort. It's an emergency. Shame from a bad body image. I don't know. I need to get thin. There are people who run because they want to feel healthy, and there are people who run because they want to not look the way they are. Those are two very different motivations for two people running on a track next to each other. It's hard to see. It's going on inside, in their heads, in their hearts. Aging. I want to avoid age. So when you think about motivation, always understand that motivation has a direction. You're motivated towards something, or you're motivated away from something, or it can be both. That's a behavioral principle to leverage when designing apps, services, whatever, right? Non-digital, whatever. Understand the direction of motivation. Any questions? Quick reflection here. How much time do I have? I don't have much time. All right. Then the other concept of motivation is intrinsic or extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is when you do something for the pleasure of doing it. Walking the dog, I don't know, like tending plants, It can be something internal that gives you pleasure from doing the behavior, or it can be something external. The dog needs to, go out. Or you've promised your friend to take the dog out. So your motivation can be something the action gives you a reward, or doing the action gives you an external reward. Here, I wanted to do these exercises, but we don't have time. But it could be that this guy is meditating because he wants inner peace, it's pleasurable, or because he's teaching a class. He's teaching a class, it's extrinsic. The motivation is extrinsic. Same thing. Could be driving a car because of external reasons, making money on Uber, not really enjoying it. But could be internal, enjoys driving. Dropping the kids to school, extrinsic motivation. Taking the new car for a test ride, intrinsic motivation. Yeah? So motivation has a direction, and motivation has a source. And the last thing, motivation is always driven by a reward. 3 kinds of rewards. Let's see, I'm a little bit late. So yeah, I'll touch upon these rewards in the next class, don't worry, because we will go into them. Material, social, and personal rewards. But essentially what I want to leave you with today is that 2 key ways of changing behavior are to kind of align the action, align the behavior that you want people to do with the motivation that they already have. Motivation is like a sail, is like wind in the sails of your behavior design intervention. Find what people already want to do, find their direction of motivation, their source of motivation, the rewards that they're motivated by, and align your behavior towards that because you already have that power. Or the other, more devious way, which has been going on a long time, I don't intentionally recommend that you create cognitive dissonance, but it happens a lot. It's just the truth. I mean, I'm not recommending making people uncomfortable, but unfortunately it's all around us everywhere today. Digital, non-digital. Create a state of discomfort and show a way out of that discomfort by doing a particular behavior. Shopping, impulse shopping, Black Friday, all of that stuff is Black Monday, Black Friday, whatever. Black whatever, something. All of this impulse shopping stuff, this is free, buy now, all of that stuff. A lot of shopping, impulse shopping happens because people are lonely, or they're tired, or they're bored, or there's some state of discomfort, something to do. You act as a way of resolving dissonance. And it can be much more targeted, like in the case of the diamonds or whatever else. Weekends, go to Tallinn, go to Stockholm, free tickets. Your weekend is coming, your life's a mess, I don't know. Or you have a challenging week ahead. Or any state of cognitive dissonance where your self-concept, your positive self-concept is challenged. Not always a bad thing. If you can create cognitive dissonance and get people to stop smoking, or invest in good habits like running, or I don't know, fix their relationship, or raise their kids right, or invest in learning, sure. Because, you know why? Because you're aligning with their motivation. When people want to do something and they're finding it hard to do it, then it's okay to use methods with their consent to help them change their behavior because they want to get rid of these bad habits. They want good behavior change. But the other stuff is basically manipulation. And so persuasion design and persuasion is a huge part of behavior design, which has been, influence and persuasion is a huge area that we study and has been, applied a lot. Not by us, but in general. All right, that's it. Yeah, thanks for today.